Magnus Olafsson, better known as Magnus Barefoot, was king of Norway from 1093 until his death in 1103. His reign was marked by aggressive military campaigns and conquest, particularly in the Norse-dominated parts of the British Isles, and he extended his rule to the Kingdom of the Isles and Dublin. As the only son of King Olaf Kyrre, Magnus was proclaimed king in southeastern Norway shortly after his father's death in 1093. In the north his claim was contested by his cousin, Håkon Magnusson, and the two co-ruled uneasily until Håkon's death in 1095. Disgruntled members of the nobility refused to recognize Magnus after his cousin's death, but the insurrection was short-lived. After securing his position domestically, Magnus campaigned around the Irish Sea from 1098 to 1099. He raided through Orkney, the Hebrides and Man, and ensured Norwegian control by a treaty with the Scottish king. Based on Man during his time in the west, Magnus had a number of forts and houses built on the island and probably also obtained suzerainty of Galloway. He sailed to Wales later in his expedition, winning control of Anglesey after repelling the invading Norman forces from the island. Following his return to Norway, Magnus led campaigns into Dalsland and Västergötland in Sweden, claiming an ancient border with the country. After two unsuccessful invasions and a number of skirmishes, Danish King Erik Evergod initiated peace talks among the three Scandinavian monarchs. Fearing that the conflict would get out of hand, Magnus concluded peace with the Swedes in 1101 by agreeing to marry Margaret, daughter of the Swedish king Inge Stenkilsson. In return, Magnus gained Dalsland as a part of her dowry. He set out on his final western campaign in 1102, and may have sought to conquer Ireland. Magnus entered into an alliance with Irish King Muirchertach Brian of Munster, who recognised Magnus' control of Dublin, under unclear circumstances, while obtaining food supplies for his return to Norway. Magnus was killed in an ambush by the Ule the next year. Territorial advances characterising his reign ended with his death. Into modern times, his legacy has remained more pronounced in Ireland and Scotland than in his native Norway. Among the few domestic developments known during his reign, Norway developed a more centralized rule and moved closer to the European model of church organization. Popularly portrayed as a Viking warrior rather than a medieval monarch, Magnus was the last Norwegian king to fall in battle abroad, and he may in some respects be considered the final Viking king. Background: most information about Magnus is gleaned from Norse sagas and chronicles, which began appearing during the 12th century. The most important sources still available are the Norwegian chronicles Historia der Antiquitate Regum Norwegiensium by Theodoric the Monk and the anonymous Agra af Norregs Konunge Sagum from the 1180s and the Icelandic sagas Heimskringla, Morkinskinna and Fagskinna, which date to about the 1220s. While the later sagas are the most detailed accounts, they are also generally considered the least reliable. Additional information about Magnus, in particular his campaigns, is found in sources from the British Isles, which included contemporary accounts. Magnus was born around the end of 1073 as the only son of King Olaf Kyrre. His mother's identity is uncertain. She is identified as Tora Unsdatter in Morkinskinna and Fagskinna, as Tora Jonesdatter in Heimskringla, Rockinskinna and Ridgejarstike, and an unnamed daughter of Ranval Jal from Godoy, Sunmore in the genealogical text Afngl. Eatleg. The historical consensus has favoured Tora Unsdatter, but the other claims have also gained support. Magnus grew up among the herd of his father in Nidaros, de facto capital of Norway at the time. His father's cousin, the chieftain Tor Ingerudsson, was foster father to Magnus. In his youth, he was apparently more similar to his warlike grandfather, King Harald Hardrada, than to his father. According to Snorre Sturluson, Magnus was considered handsome and gifted in learning, although he was shorter in stature than his grandfather Harald. He was reportedly known as Magnus the Tall. Magnus, a more common byname, Barefoot, or Barelegs, was, according to Snorre, due to his adopting the Gaelic dress of the Irish and Scots, a short tunic, which left the lower legs bare. Another version maintains that he acquired the nickname because he was forced to flee from a Swedish attack in his bare feet, while a third explains that he rode barefoot due to Magnus' aggressive nature and his campaigns abroad. He also had the nickname Stygjaldar Magnus.